Welcome to another tutorial video. We're going to be discussing the concept of the cost of debt in this one, specifically as it relates to valuations, the WACC calculation, and also a bit of credit analysis. This is a very basic topic in some ways, but I'm covering it here because I think that a lot of people neglect certain points or don't go into certain nuances that will come up in real life, even if they don't appear to come up in textbooks or academic sources. So if you want this tutorial in writing, you can go to the link that is pinned in the first comment below this video, or just go to our valuation page in our knowledge base and the cost of debt page right there. You'll get all the Excel examples, the screenshots, and the company documents available for download at this link. So as usual, I'm going to give you the short answer first, and then we'll go into each aspect of this, and I'll show you some more complex examples in Excel based on real companies' filings. The cost of debt is the effective rate a company would pay if it issued additional debt today in the current market environment. Now, most people think about this rate or cost in the form of the interest expense on the debt, and that is a major component, if not the biggest component in almost all cases. But some of the cost or the rate that a company pays could also correspond to discounts that they grant investors, to additional fees, perhaps to some type of early repayment fee, and sometimes also to market value differences. To companies, the cost of debt is the all-in expense percentage on debt. So if they issue $1 billion of debt and they're paying 5% or 8% on it on average each year that it remains outstanding, that is the cost of debt. And to investors, the cost of debt is the effective annualized yield they can expect to earn by buying the company's debt and holding it until maturity. So if a company has $1,000 of bonds with $50 of interest expense, then the simple cost of debt calculation is just 50 over 1,000 or 5%, about what they're paying each year on this issuance. Now, since the interest expense is tax deductible, you multiply the cost of debt by 1 minus the tax rate in the weighted average cost of capital formula. So at a 25% tax rate, it would be about 3.75%. So let's go into Excel and just take a look at what this looks like. Here's the example that I was referring to in these slides. We have debt of 1,000 and interest expense of 50. And so the pre-tax cost of debt here would just be the 50 in interest divided by the total debt, 5%. And then the after-tax cost would be the 5% times 1 minus the company's 25% tax rate, which gets us about 3.75%. Of course, there is a problem with this, which is that we are not factoring in the market value of these bonds or their maturity, and these both affect what the company would pay in today's market environment. Because when the company issued this debt, interest rates were probably different. Maybe the company's credit quality was different. Maybe something else about the macro environment was different. And so we want to factor in the current market value to account for these factors. So if we say that the bond's market value is $900 with a 10-year maturity, we can use the yield function in Excel to calculate its yield to maturity, or the annualized return that investors could expect to earn if they buy the bond today at this market price and hold it to maturity. Let's go down here to the yield to maturity method, and I'll enter yield in Excel. For the settlement date, let's enter the valuation date. We're taking the end of the last quarter here, March 31st. And then for the maturity, we can use an EO month function and take this date, and then we'll go forward the 10 years, and I'll multiply this by 12 because EO month is based on the number of months. So 120 months here is 10 years. For the rate, it is just the 5% estimated coupon rate. The PR part is the current market value of the debt out of 100. So we take the 900, we divide by 1,000, and then we multiply by 100. And then the redemption is what the investors earn back upon maturity, also out of 100. And so in this simple example, I'll just say this is 100 so we don't complicate things too much. And for frequency, I'll just say 2 for semi-annual payments. And so the pre-tax cost of debt factoring in the market value is 6.4%. This is almost certainly because interest rates have gone up since the company originally issued this debt. On an after-tax basis, we can just copy down our formula from above, and I'll anchor the tax rate part. And so it comes out to 4.8% after taxes. So in the WACC calculation, you would use this 4.8%. In credit analysis, you might use this type of cost of debt to estimate the company's future coupon rates on bonds when it refinances or has to raise new debt. It could also factor into debt versus equity decisions. So here's an example for Netflix and its refinancing. The company currently has a lot of senior notes that were issued when interest rates were much lower, but in the future, they're going to have to issue more debt and refinance some of their existing debt. And so we can determine these types of interest rates by looking at the yield to maturity on their existing issuances, factoring in the fact that interest rates have gone up, and so the market value of many of these issuances is below their face value. and that's how we get to higher numbers here for the interest rates on the debt going forward. Now, in real life, some complexities come up with the cost of debt calculation. Real companies usually have multiple debt issuances, so you have to use some type of weighted average. Real companies may not disclose the fair market value of their debt, so you may have to use the credit default spread in that case. And then some companies may not have debt at all, but you still need to calculate it for use in the WACC calculation, and in that case, you have to rely on the public comps instead. So we'll go through all those here. I'll start with a little bit more on the interpretations of the cost of debt. Then we'll go through what happens with multiple debt issuances, what happens when the company doesn't give you the fair value or fair market value of debt, and then what happens when the company has no debt. So the first thing I want to point out here is that if the cost of debt is 6.4%, that doesn't necessarily mean the company pays $64 per year in cash on a $1,000 debt balance. It could, and it often does, but that's not necessarily what happens in this case. For example, the company could offer a lower coupon rate, such as 5 or 6%, but then give investors a discount, or they could offer a discount and then also some type of prepayment or repayment penalty so that the investors get an effective 6.4% yield, even if they're not getting a 6.4% cash interest rate from the company. So I have an example right here of issuing a 6% bond at a 3% original issue discount so that investors pay about $30 less. They still get $64 in interest, but they're only paying $970 upfront rather than $1,000. So if we go into Excel and look at how this works, I have all the parameters laid out right up here. Let's enter the yield function once again. So for the yield, we'll enter the settlement date, today's date, and then for the maturity, we'll take this date and then go forward 10 times 12 months. For the rate, I'll enter the 6% coupon rate. And then for the market value, this has to be out of 100. So I can just enter 100 and then say 1 minus 3% to capture this original issue discount. And then for the redemption value, I'll just say 100 to keep it simple. For the frequency, I'll say semi-annual. And now we get to that same 6.4%. And I can copy and paste over the after-tax formula. So this is just one example of what a company might do. If it doesn't want to pay for that full 6.4% interest in cash, it does have other options to increase the effective cost without paying quite as much in cash interest expense each year. And then if there's a prepayment penalty, it's the same thing, except now, if you look at the formula and the way it's modified, they get back 5% more at the end. So it's 100 times 1 plus 5% right here. So there are many options, and I just want to point this out because in a lot of cases, you do make this assumption that it is $64 per year in cash interest, but there are different ways to do it, and companies have different options when considering these debt versus equity questions. So on this issue of multiple debt issuances in real life, the short, simple answer is that you calculate the yield to maturity of each tranche separately and then use the weighted average. So I have two examples in the Excel file here. One is for Western Midstream Partners, a pipeline company in the US, and then the other is for Steel Dynamics. The Steel Dynamics one is very simple, and they just disclose the overall fair value of their debt, and then we just apply the yield function to that. They don't split it into different tranches here, even though they do have multiple different tranches. They just give us the overall number. But the Western Midstream one is a little bit more complex. If you pull up the extracts from their 10K, they actually give us the fair value and then the carrying value and principal value of all of their tranches of debt. So the principal is the face value, what they're paying interest on. The fair value is the market value of the issuance. And so we can use all this information to calculate the yield to maturity on each tranche of debt. If we go back to Excel, here's what we can do. So I'll say yield, and then for the settlement date, we want to use the valuation date, so the end of the last quarter. For the maturity, they give us the maturity dates of all the issuances. They give us the coupon rates. For the PR, we take the fair value, divide by principal, and multiply by 100. And for the redemption, we'll just say 100, and I'll say 2 for semi-annual once again. So we have that. So we have the yield to maturity of each issuance, and now we can use a sum product function in Excel and take the principal in each case, multiply by the yield to maturity, and then we can just divide by the total principal right here. We get to a yield to maturity of 5.71%, and that then feeds into the WACC calculation as our pre-tax cost of debt and flows through everything else here. In these examples, the taxes make quite an impact because Western Midstream Partners is an MLP, a master limited partnership with 0% or close to 0% corporate taxes. Steel Dynamics has much higher corporate taxes because it is a standard C corporation. So I recommend taking a look at that in the file and seeing how the taxes affect the relative costs of debt here. Of course, many companies will not have these types of fair value disclosures, in which case you need to do something a bit different. So that takes us into the next part, what to do if there are no fair value disclosures. One thing you could do is look at the comparable public companies and see if any of them disclose the fair market values of their debt and then just use those costs. So for example, for Western Midstream Partners, we could go to any of these companies, Hess Midstream, Genesis Energy, NGL Energy Partners, any of the ones listed here, and see if they have information if the company had not provided this. And for Steel Dynamics, same idea. We could go to Nucor, Cleveland Cliffs, US Steel Corp, look at any of these and see if there's some information there, and perhaps we could use that to get a rough idea of the cost of debt for our company. You could also use the simple interest rate method and just take the company's interest expense and divide by its average debt balance. Now, this is very simple. The downside is that it doesn't reflect current market conditions. It reflects market conditions at the time the debt was issued, which is not really what we want with the cost of debt. But if you want to see an example, I have the company's interest expense and their average debt balance over the past year for 2024 right here. And so if we take this and divide, we do get to 4.8%, and then we can multiply by 1 minus the tax rate to get our after-tax cost right here. The tax rate is only 1% because it's an MLP. So this is certainly an option, but as you can see, 4.8% versus 5.7% actually can make a pretty decent difference, especially for a company like this where in their capital structure, they might be using 30 or 40% debt. So we don't think this is the ideal method, but it certainly is an option. The third option is that you could take the risk-free rate, typically the 10-year government bond yield in the country, and then add a credit default spread based on the company's credit rating. So Demoteron from NYU has this really good data on ratings, interest coverage ratios, and the default spread. Western Midstream Partners has very healthy interest coverage ratios, but for some reason it has a relatively low credit rating of BBB-. So that gives it a spread of about 1.2%. So we could go back here and say that the pre-tax cost of debt for this company equals the risk-free rate, 4.2% on this date, plus the credit default spread of 1.2%, and then we can multiply by 1 minus the tax rate to get the after-tax version as well. Now this is better. It is closer to the 5.71% and definitely more accurate than the simple interest rate method. It may seem like a small difference, but again, if the company uses substantial debt, this can add up and make a more significant difference on the overall valuation output. Now, one final problem here is that the company you're analyzing might not have any debt. In this case, all you can really do is look at the comparable public companies, find a few with debt, and then take their weighted average yield to maturities, or maybe take the risk-free rate plus the credit default spread for each one if you want to save a bit of time. If there is a big size difference, so let's say you're valuing a tech startup or a growth company, and you're comparing it to companies that have $100 million or $200 million in revenue, you could arguably add some type of size or risk premium and maybe increase the cost of debt by about 20 to 40%, because generally speaking, smaller companies are riskier and they pay more to borrow. So if the median yield to maturity for the public comps is around 8%, but this company is about 1/5 of their size, 20% of their size, then maybe you would increase the cost of debt to about 10 to 11%. There isn't exactly a precise way to do this, but many people would argue for this type of adjustment in the calculations. So that's about it. Let's do a quick recap and summary. With the cost of debt, this represents the effective rate that a company pays on additional debt issuances today. For investors, the cost of debt represents the annualized yield they could earn if they buy into these issuances and hold them to maturity. The cost of debt is widely used in the WACC calculation for the discount rate and a DCF. It's also used in credit analysis to predict what type of rates the company might pay on its future issuances and refinancings. When you have a company with multiple debt issuances in real life, you have to take the weighted average yield to maturity based on the fair value or fair market value of each issuance and its maturity and coupon rate, and then use that to estimate the cost of debt. Now, if a company doesn't disclose the fair values, then the best approach usually is to take the risk-free rate and then add an estimated credit default spread based on the company's interest coverage ratio, leverage ratio, or other stats like that. You could also look at comparable companies and try to use their cost of debt as well. And then if the company has no debt at all, you really have to look at the comparable companies, and if they're vastly different in size from the one that you're valuing, make some type of size or risk adjustment and add some type of premium, often in the 20 to 40% range, depending on the exact size difference. That's about it for this lesson on the cost of debt. Hopefully now you have a better idea of how to do it, and you have a couple of references of how it works for real life companies.